Soul Journey of Life on social media.
This is an awakening.
Snap out of it! Thought-provoking, challenging the popular perspectives, critical of today's opinions. We go all the way in deep. What's a thought's worth if thoughts must conform to ill-conceived theories and so-called orthodox beliefs, twisted opinions of hypocrisy? How do we reach new heights? Ascend to higher realizations, activate the powers of abstract reasoning. We must break the chains that hold us down from celestial flights. Face what you think you know with what you have yet to know. For the moment, never mind how you believe things ought to be. We must revolutionize our minds for there to be a clear way to unify. For that to happen, we must have a seat at the table all over again. Just making sure the light works. Unlock the keys of scrutiny. Revive what it means to pursue knowledge. Manifest the God in we, you and me. Welcome to your wake-up call. Soul Journey of Life. Conscious Black social media. The light dome.
That. Wow. All right. Okay, let's see here. There we go. Kind of wondered what was going on there. Actually, I kind of like that. Okay, dear family. First of all, I'd like to begin by greeting everybody viewing right now. Salam alaikum. Shalom, hotep, peace and blessings be with you. This is your brother, Dubois, aka Questman, with another live Soul Journey of Life, Conscious Black social media. Give me a second here to fix this headphone. It's kind of snagging on this thing here. And hopefully you can hear me. If you can hear me pretty good, just let me know if a fist in the air or a one in the chat. Also, be sure to like, share, and subscribe when you're way in here. Thumbs up. And it also lets me know that I'm not talking to myself. Okay. Yeah. So, as you see by the title here, I'm gonna get a little, what do you want to say, political. But as many of you who listen to my talks or whatnot, you probably already know that I'm not well into the. I don't see myself as a political person, or at least political in accordance or in league with the establishment. You understand? I don't. I'm organizing something here. Give me a second. Let's do it this way. So I like to put this where I can look. I can look at this and see, the camera situation at the same time. There. So this one I could do this with. All right, good. How's the family doing? I know I've had to take quite a bit of time from each live that I'm doing. There's a lot going on. Even in my own personal life, there's a lot going on. And that's not always a happy or convenient thing, but it's part of life. It's part of what it is. You deal with you encounter challenges that you may not even foresee coming. You've got all this, idea about your life, and then all of a sudden, boom, here's this, and it doesn't care if you're already going through challenges. Like, oh, you're going through challenges. Well, here's a few more. Let's throw these additional challenges on you. But anyway, I don't see myself as a person who, I don't dig the politics of the establishment. You understand? There's a lot that I would be concerned with, that the existing political establishment, in any form, in any party, in any perspective of it, doesn't quite, connect with me the right way. Um, One of the things, I have a heart, the heart and mind of a revolutionary. You understand? And that connects with the idea that, I don't believe that the established system, you know, carries or holds the best interest, um, of our people. You understand? When you can see year after year after year, I mean, you can kind of learn without too much rocket science, right? That, the establishment is not concerned for what is in our better interest, for what would be a meaningful, uh, what will make a meaningful difference in our life. Establishment's not concerned. When you've had many people throughout the years who've come and protested and spoken out and lifted up their voices and voted and all this other stuff, and yet we still are haven't gotten anywhere near with that means towards what would be in our better interest. Namely, we've been pushing for example, reparations. We've been pushing for, things of that nature. But if you're of a revolutionary mindset, you've also been pushing for self-determination, liberation, things of that. The right to be able to live in accordance with this. Um, and yet and still we don't have that. I constantly remind us of the fact that, those of us who are descendant of those who have suffered from, an enslavement, whether it be enslaved while in their own land here, or enslaved while they were in lands abroad that some of us call the motherland, Africa. They were still enslaved and still suffered under, the loss of a national identity, their national identity. And even though the so-called civil rights era and movements and whatnot, like the Civil War and things of that nature, um, claim to be, elements expressing that we're free, um, I find that we still find ourselves ruled by the same people, albeit their descendants, ruling over us, still telling us what to do, still calling our shots, still telling us how we should speak, how we should move, how we should live and run our families. So I'm still confused at where the freedom part is existing, because last I checked, when you've been captured and then told that you're free, then that means you should be able to restore yourself. You know, I i.e., reparations, restoration, things like that. You should be able to yourself and return yourself to being the people you once were, or at least, if you no longer have that ability, restore yourself to being a new people. You understand? And neither of them, from what I could tell, has been afforded us yet. Because, like I said, we would look. There'd be no such thing as police brutality, at least from other people, from that other people that don't look like us. There'd be no existence of that if we were really granted freedom. You understand? Because they wouldn't have any say so over our own nation's way of going. Anyway, that's another topic. Um, but it's still in the line of how I like to communicate. I like to say that the path that I endeavor upon is one of a spiritual sort, so it might not always line up with the worldly version of the same type of conversations. Um, it might be a little bit different, because this deals with a more of an intuitive look at things, more of a right-brained look at things that we encounter. Still, just as important to observe what we're living in. I mean, we do live in a political system. Um, we do have uh, people who are involved in stuff like that, and it does play a part in our life. So I agree that that there's an importance, but that importance is in the hands of those who are more adept in that. Some of us, we look at things at more of a deeper, microscopic, telescopic type of a look at things, and that gives us a different conversation. So here we have there is let me see if I can get something up so I can deal with this as we're talking. Um, yeah, something like this that I ought to do. All right. Uh, Give me a minute here. Um, and it's important to have this discussion. I can go ahead and do this right. Hmm. Yeah, my okay. All right. Anyway, I'll just do this. It's important to have this discussion, family, um, because sometimes things are what they seem, and sometimes they're not, right? And the thing about being a spiritualist, I don't even like using that formula like that, because that when you or ism something, that always seems to put us in some type of category or box, or some type of confinement. And when you're on a journey towards freedom on even greater levels, confinement is kind of not what we're looking towards. We're trying to free ourselves from confinements and attachments, and earth or dust dwelling levels of what do you call it, discriminations, things of that nature is kind of not the way of a spiritual person. But what you see right here is this is Brother Cornell West, and I'm not sure, what you know of the brother or how long you've been, observing or watching the brother's, involvement, particularly in the black community and things of that nature. Um, but as it is of the present, he has put himself to where he's declared as running for the president of the United States, for whatever that's worth, right? Um, Again, like I said, if you have some type of confidence in this established political system, then it is what it is, and maybe you have some strong grounding in that, or a strong perspective in that. But and that can be brought up as an important thing to talk about. But here, what I like to do is try to keep our eyes open, right? Because the thing about an enemy is sometimes the enemy likes you just the way you are if you're asleep. You understand? They like you to be just like that. Stay asleep and do things that will try to uh, keep you that way. Or if you are awake, um, to put things that would be a distraction to you in your endeavor towards not only remaining awake, but doing something now that you are awake, doing something that matters, right? Um, so there is, this is where that expression comes, where the devil, promised to uh, lead you astray, whether it be in front of you, to the right of you, to the back of you, to the left of you, beneath you, however they can lead you off your way, unless you are those who are rightly guided. Um, and so that type of that art of deception is what's going on, and what I'm implying here. Now, I'm not telling you here um, to get involved in politics, to not get involved in politics. That's not my conversation. My conversation is also not to tell you to whether or not to vote or not to vote, and in general, and in particular, whether to vote for Brother West or not to vote for Brother West, right? Um, but just some things to keep in your mind as you do whatever it is you do on your way, right? Um, on at the heart of it all, I'm going to say this, in case if anybody, you know, may have like, well, what should I do? What do I do? If anybody has that kind of mindset, well, I would say follow your heart. My heart is for my people, so that's why you're not going to hear me say too much ill about Brother West as an individual, because I'm going to show you something here if I can. Um, let's go back in time a little bit. Peace and blessings, shalom, to all those viewing right now. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Let's go back in time. And before I make this effort to go back in time, let me go ahead and put this in the face of those who would be concerned about the matter. Yeah, fair use is intended here. We're doing some building, some education. We're doing some critique. We're doing some research. We're reporting. We're commenting. All that. Okay, let's get that out of our face. All right. If I can. All right, there we go. Got worried there. So let's go back in time. Um, I can remember learning about Brother Cornell West, way back. I don't know if you remember a brother by the name of Tavis Smiley. There was a brother named Tavis Smiley on PBS of all things, right? And salute, yes, indeed, welcome, come on in. Of all things, Tavis Smiley was one of the people I had a respect for because I felt like out of all the things you would see on PBS, that was about as thorough as you were going to get. Even, notwithstanding the fact that it's still PBS, it's still public broadcasting. That means it's still tied to the establishment. No matter how you spin that ball, you're still suffering the antics or the agenda of the powers that be somehow, some way. The thing, and this is what I'm trying to get at. When you're looking at things with an intuitive eye, you start seeing things, And I don't want to sound crazy saying that, but maybe it's good to sound crazy saying that. You start seeing things. You start seeing, wait a minute, he's talking what we like to hear or speaking in our language. But if the establishment, if there's really systemic racism, then why would they want to just be so bold and have brothers talking authentically on their own broadcast? The thing is like they've said before on so many ways, this is a battle of hearts and minds. You understand? It's a battle of hearts and minds. And there's an old expression that I learned when I was a little boy. You get more flies with honey than vinegar, right? And imagine you get these flies, but the whole purpose of getting all the flies together is just so you could swat them dead. All right, just so you could swat them dead. Let's get this Tavis Smiley video up here. So sometimes what may look sweet may be surrounded with shenanigans. You understand? Sometimes what looks sweet may be surrounded with shenanigans. And this is Brother Tavis Smiley. And again, this is in no way, I'm not attacking Brother Tavis or Wes, because at the end of the day, I believe ones like them have been doing what they believe is keeping it real. And sometimes you work within the parameters of what you're familiar with, what you have been accustomed to believing works, right? And if you, like I said, if you dig the political establishment and you don't have any reason, or you haven't been convinced of any reason to see the schemes in it, you're going to keep on moving accordingly. Or sometimes we feel like what I believe W.E.B. Dubois was on, and I'm not I salute his scholarship, but I'm not a fan of his philosophical principles because they were contrary to the one who I am a fan of, both philosophically and in principle, and that's Charles Marcus Garvey. So when that was a situation that I would have had to side with Garvey during those days. And I believe that if more of us had done so, Garvey wouldn't have been exiled, and he wouldn't have, and what he was striving for would have been a breakthrough across the land. If we were like, if we moved as one body, which we don't, and we're trying to find pockets of us doing that today, but for a long time we've often been, more than anything, a divided people. You understand? Where it's hard to get us to be in agreement with one thing for long enough. Even if it's in our favor, we'll find some pocket of us that has an issue with it or something to say, and everybody benefits. So let's go ahead and play this, right?
Control 42%, own and control 42% of the wealth. That's a problem. When 1 out of 2 Americans is either in or near poverty, you take the perennially poor or the persistent
right
poor.
here, my part.
Top
I wanted to show you right here.
Supposedly, or what has not progressed.
So this right here, this is a meeting. They've got Tavis Smiley, they've got Cornell West, but the brother I want to focus our attention to is what Cornell West was talking about, and this is back in oh shoot, I want to say, yeah, right here. Okay, 2012. Yeah, back about 2012, give or take. I thought it was a little earlier or a little later than that. Um, well, let's hear what the brother's talking about.
Well, we know as a result of the social movements led by Martin Luther King Jr., but connected Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel and Dorothy Day and Daniel Berrigan and others, that we went from nearly 24% of Americans living in poverty to 11%. Michael Harrington, Francis Fox Piven, others playing a crucial role. Social movements make a difference, but also greed at the top has social consequences. This is issues of economic injustice, issues of class inequality, 1% of the population having 42% of the wealth. 2010, the top 1% got 93% of the income. And we're not talking about wealth at this point, income. Now that's morally obscene, yet 22% of our children of all colors, each one precious, living in poverty. That's an ethical abomination.
Now, we're not just going to talk about.
So the reason why, before she runs her mouth, the reason why I'm doing this is because, you know, one of the things I believe in is that while we're growing and we're always, you know, advancing when we get new, you know, experiences in our life, there's something about our who we are inside that remains the same. Like the real person is always there, no matter the time you're in. Give me a second here. This mic I can hear it. Okay. And so I wanted you to hear the content of what he had to say there at that point, and also observe the character, because these are key features regarding, you know, what kind of person you're dealing with. If they're authentic, you see the real, whatever audience they're involved in. You see who that person is. You know, 10 years from now, you still see the same person. Like, oh yeah, that's the same person. They might, like I said, they might advance, gain new skills, gain new insights, new wisdoms, but it's still that person. You know, the authentic self is still what you would get. And so I would like us to pay attention to that as in dealing with the individual character, Brother West. And that's just on one level. But there's other levels we have to take this. And yeah, I'm looking in the commentary. They did rough Tavis Smiley up pretty harshly, but you know that's what they do when we start making a dent of a difference, especially where it counts. And Tavis Smiley was Tavis Smiley was a very started to become very more vocal, more instrumental, and you know they had to do what they could to kind of snuff that out. You understand? And that's the thing that's unfortunate, because when we're not unified the way we should be, then it's hard for us to protect our brothers and sisters when they go through things like that. Because if anything, you know, black-owned platforms should have been like, okay, well, PBS don't want you. Well, come on over. We could do this over here, whatever the issue may be. But like I said, this is what they do when they need to get you up out of the way. You know, and the thing about this type of devil, the thing about this kind of enemy is they are. It doesn't just start. They don't just start like, oh, it's you. They don't just start to plot and scheme against you. You understand? They were doing that homework years ago before it even got to the point. So that by the time you realize what you're up against, you understand, it's new to you, but they're like, okay, now is the time. Boom. You understand? Now is the time for us to do plan B, plan C, initiate operation such and such. And that's when you realize the problem, and by then it's too late. I want you to pay attention to the title here, the part where it says double-edged sword. If you could recall, the brother by the name of Martin Luther King, very respectable person in the community. And I wish this speaker or this microphone was not being staticky. So give me a second. I thought I had that fixed. Man, yeah, let's do that. There we go. Let's try that out. Martin Luther King. What many of you may not realize is that this is an example. Yeah, he did go to BET, but the thing about BET is it's not black owned. You know, it's not black owned. In fact, during that time was about when I believe the transition from its ownership became owned by a non-black personality. And I don't know. See, and the thing you got to remember, those viewing, is that this was at the beginning stages of when social media started coming into effect. You know, Facebook. I think MySpace was still kind of starting to surface. So the way information was pushed is different than the way information is pushed today, right? I mean, people really had to dig into to material resources when it came to like research. There wasn't any Googling just yet. Bing, if you remember Bing, that was something coming out in those days. But nothing like this. Nothing like what we're dealing with now. YouTube and live chats and all this kind of stuff. This was all live studio camera broadcast. Lights, camera, action stuff. So a different time with a different way that people had to communicate information, which is why ones like Tavis Smiley was so important. I mean, literally, we would be. He was a late night talk, a late night what do you want to call it, a talk show host or whatnot, late night, and you would look for him. If you didn't care about watching Jay Leno and all these other maniacs that were on at that time, you would flip on to Tavis Smiley. Yeah, it was not just any one of those, but the ones that have an issue every time you mention something about them when you want to identify some of our ancestral origins. That particular group of people always seem to have an issue. Ask Kanye West, for further information on that. So it was those that took over, just like they did in NAACP and pretty much anything else that mattered, that was supposed to matter to us. For some reason, when it reaches when it looks like it's something that can control us, the leadership changes. BLM, when it looked like it was something influencing us, suddenly the leadership changes or becomes something different. Martin Luther King, he was known to have powerful rhetoric, powerful oratory, powerful communication skills and things like that. People had a great deal of respect for him, but the thing you need to understand is that the enemy knows this too. And when they see something, they know how they learn how to use us, even when you don't know that you're being used. You understand? Some of us, you think that things you're just allowed to go about and do this and do that, and like, nothing's happening to me, or nothing is, and here off we go, but not realizing that certain ones in the infrastructure of this devilry want you to be able to go ahead and move in that direction. You guys want to mass up and burn stuff down and do this and that? Okay, go right ahead, because we need some of that. And this is why I always admonish, I always have asked us to take in consideration the fact that when you see our brothers and sisters, our sisters on top of cars twerking, and our brothers and everybody doing this and that, they like to see that because they like to use this as a resume of who we are. So when it comes to us standing before anyone else in the world, this is our presentation. These are the people you want to be an ally with. These are the people you want to save their lives. Their life matters. Look at what these people are doing. Their lives matter to you. UN, United Nations, or whoever we want to complain to, or whoever we want to cry and say, hey, come and help us. They're killing us over here. They're doing all kinds of tyrannical stuff to us. And then they would look at the resume that the enemy has produced about us. Oh, these are the guys you're talking about, right? And then they'll show somebody twerking on a car top or whatever. These are the guys you're talking about. They'll show us doing something dumb, standing on a bunch of milk crates for fun. And then, you know, it reduces our ability to be effective. So they saw Martin Luther King. They saw what he was. They saw also the movement of the Black Panthers. They saw the potential of authority, power gaining skills that these organized bodies had. They saw what they could do that could affect the powers that be. And when you're not trying to give up any of your power, you've got to do something about that. So of course, you know, their think tanks are looking at, well, let's let Martin Luther King continue. Let's invest in him, and at the same time belittle these people over here. These people are trying to rise up and actually get some freedom for a chance. These people are trying to rise up, put boots on the ground, and make a difference. These people over here are trying to do something, but Martin Luther King, we can skew that and manipulate that some way. We can kind of line him up a certain way so that we can get his talking points and use them to our advantage. And all the while, of course, Martin Luther King didn't realize some of that medicine, or that poison, I should say, until later in his life, when he realized some of the error that he was making and spoke about it. But by then, it was already too late. The damage was done. You understand? Now they've got the quotes that they need from him. They got the sound bites that they could use from him for many, 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 many years to come. So to this day, when you want to think of Martin Luther King, the quote that'll come to your mind the quickest, the fastest is, "I have a dream." Yeah, let me do like this. Okay. Is that better? I don't know. Or I could do that way. So, and that's what we'll hear. That's what we'll hear. What is that? I'm looking at this here. So, and to this very day, that's anytime we feel some kind of way, like we feel, you know, oh, so you want to do something. Next thing you know, I have a dream. Next thing you know is that everybody get along, you know, singing songs, you know, dancing, kumbaya, all that madness, right? Every time we feel like we want to make a difference for ourselves, every time we feel like we're starting to see your schemes and your games to snuff that body of people out, they immediately search for the hearts of those who are still lulled to sleep. You understand? Because those people are going to come out with either the coonery, their foolery, their gimmickry, or the hypocrisy. They'll come out with all of that and say, well, brother, you know, everybody's not racist, and they don't all, you know, they'll come up with all that line, using my point is using what we're about against us. You understand? Using the any type of passive rhetoric that we speak against us.
About presidential politics. We also want to talk about Occupy. But on the campaign trail, I want to ask about presidential frontrunner Mitt Romney. In February, well, at least frontrunner for the Republicans. In February, he told CNN Soledad O'Brien he's not concerned with the poorest Americans.
I'm in this race because I care about Americans. I'm not concerned about the very poor. We have a safety net there. If it needs a repair, I'll fix it.
You just said, I'm not concerned about the very poor because they have a safety net. And I think there are lots of very poor Americans who are struggling who would say, that sounds odd. Can you explain that?
Well, you had to finish the sentence, Soledad. I said, I'm not concerned about the very poor that have a safety net, but if it has holes in it, I will repair them.
Got it. Okay.
The challenge right now, we will hear from the Democrat Party the plight of the poor. And there's no question, it's not good being poor, and we have a safety net to help those that are very poor. But my campaign is focused on middle-income Americans. My campaign, you can choose where to focus. You can focus on the rich. That's not my focus. You can focus on the very poor.
Listen to
That's
this
not
guy.
my focus.
My
focus is on middle-income Americans.
You need to understand how this works. See, this is when I'm saying spirituality deals with your psyche. It deals with your intuitive qualities and whatnot. But understand how this game works, this game of chess that this enemy plays. They know that many of us, we hear that, we're not going to like what we hear. You understand? And I don't know if you remember what was going on there in this time, but let me just say Obama, right? So naturally, the majority of people amongst us who believe in politics are going to automatically vote for Barack Obama, irrespective of whatever his agenda might be. He could have said, well, we're going to do this, that, and the other, blow this place up, blow that place up. It didn't matter. It's a black man. Let's go ahead and vote for him. But that wouldn't be enough for everybody. See, if you remember, like there's even a scripture that the Antichrist would even deceive the elect. That means people who think they know, or people who are supposed to be spiritually mature, or of a level to perceive, right? So they've got to deal with those people too. So you've got to find ways to make them believe that, oh man, what's this guy talking about? This is not good at all. He's ignoring our impoverished people. He's so immediately you hear this and you're going to reject him. And so that's that you have to reject him, because it would be like, well, here's this white man saying such and such and so, and oh, this black man here is talking about change and talking about change you could believe in, and all these powerful punchlines, and the opponents are saying stuff like this. Never mind the poor, basically that's what he was saying. You got to understand that the pauses and breaks in people's conversations are intentional when you're, especially when you're a political person or an attorney. You know when to pause your words to emphasize what you need to say, right? To get a certain effect. Because then he can come back like he just did there. Well, see, you didn't finish the whole sentence. Well, in a way, she did, because she paused where you paused. You understand? She stopped the line of talk when you stopped it, because that was a catch point that you intended. And she caught it. And now questioned you so you could explain yourself and now justify it so people could say, see, he wasn't trying to mean any harm. He wasn't, we like to do that. We like to not see the wolf, right before you. We want to justify somehow it can't be a devil. It just can't be a devil. It's got to be something else. We don't want to call devil a devil. So yeah, let's continue that.
All right, there you have it. That was Mitt Romney.
I recall saying that when it aired. It was so hard to just intake that comment, because it shows a certain callousness, a cavalier attitude toward the poor. And we argue in this book that the poor in this country are not a priority, in part because of that kind of arrogance and the criminalization and the demonization of the poor. To just say that I'm not concerned about the very poor, just uttering that phrase, I am not concerned about the very poor, ought to arrest every single one of us, number one.
See,
Number two, he says if there is a social safety net. Well, first of all, there ought to be no question of if there is. We ought to have a social safety net for those who, through no fault of their own, find themselves in poverty. Nobody in this country wants to be poor. And for so many millions of Americans who now find themselves poor, it was not their choice. They didn't choose to ship their job abroad. They didn't choose to have their 401k raped and pillaged by their employers. They didn't choose to have a catastrophic illness which bankrupt them. So
See, here's the thing. Tavis is saying all the truth points in the matter, but the things he's not being allowed to talk about is how they got into that how our poor got into that situation to begin with. And to have that kind of conversation holds account the people who are responsible for continuing it. I say continuing it because they like to say, well, that wasn't us, that was generations that came before us, but yet and still they benefit off of the backs of what our ancestors established, and they benefit off of the fact that we are not as well-to-do as they are when it comes to the numbers and wealth and home ownership and all that kind of stuff. These are their justifications. So you can't have that kind of conversation on PBS because that's too much blackness manifesting. That's too much complaining. So they want them to be able to complain something because it at least allows you to relate. You can relate with them to some extent. You can say, oh, all right, see, they understand us.
Americans are not poor again because of character flaws, so many of them. And thirdly and finally, when Mitt Romney suggested he's concerned about the middle income America, well, as we said a moment ago, the new poor are the former middle class. So in presidential politics, Amy, when Romney and Obama presumably will be on the campaign trail this summer talking about the economy and wanting to speak
suspicion of elites, but on the other hand, when those elites are still providing programs that support you embrace them. But I think there's a sense in which the words of all of these politicians of both parties are superstructural and epiphenomena. What I mean by that is we've got to keep track of their policies, their deeds, their actions. There's a sense in which you didn't need to say that. All you need to do is look at his policies, and you see they have very little concern about poor people. When Barack Obama engages in populist rhetoric, I love poor people. Where's your policies? I love investment bankers. We see your policies. So it's a real question here of looking at the base, the real on-the-ground policies, deeds, and actions. And that's true, not just poor people. Here, look at the innocent civilians with the drones dropping bombs, now expanded, don't have to identify. CIA calling for that today. Very clear. We fight for freedom. We're concerned about innocent people. No, you're killing innocent people.
So I think you're going to get the point. That was like I said, that was back in what did we say? 2012. So you get an idea of the character of Brother West in 2012. His talking points, and I've always had the vibe listening to West, even in other talks about other things, not necessarily political, but more philosophical. That the brother, his heart is in it. You understand? He means his business. You understand? I don't ever get the vibe that Brother West is on some fake stuff, like some Al type stuff. You understand? I don't see Brother West as like Al in any kind of way. So because I can remember back in the days where there was brothers, like Tavis, like West, that you knew, you felt like these were some of the black men, out there that are really are representing when it comes to that world, that political world. As hard as it may be, these were some of the ones that were representing it. You understand? That were the keeping it real to the best that they were allowed or able to. You understand? And the other aspect of this is, especially those of us who come, from the ground level, we've known that often we have to move a certain way when it comes to being in the world of these other people. We have to move, we have to talk a certain way. As soon as you come in their environment, however you talk to your friends, however you talk to your family, you end up changing to somehow, whether it be appease them or whether it be to find your way through the business corporate ladder and so on. And the problem with that is anytime we change or alter whatever is real in us, how much is that taken away? And I want to point out something about that as we continue to look at what West has to say in the more of the present time, because I believe that there is a thin line to walk when you are trying to be appealing to a diverse audience. Appealing is one thing, but to sacrifice your principles or to support things that would be a violation of principles, I don't quite agree with. It's kind of like, being an Arab Muslim, right? Who opens up a shop in the middle of the hood selling booze, but he's a Muslim, right? And one of the things that's haram, that means forbidden to consume for a Muslim, is alcoholic beverage, booze. So you're wondering, like, well, man, why is this Arab who's supposed to be a Muslim? He just said salam alaikum in the masjid yesterday, but here he is running a shop selling booze. How does that work? How are you over here? Because, brother, it's forbidden for the Muslims. Oh, that's your justification. But what about your dawah? What about your good character that you're supposed to propagate to people who aren't, quote unquote, believing what you're believing? Is this the example that you're saying? You're saying go ahead and kill yourself, drink yourself till you're dead? That's the message of Allah from me to you, brother. That's that hypocrisy. So if you have principles that are a rule of thumb for you, it should be a rule of thumb wherever you go. You shouldn't break those codes, even if the enemy doesn't care. You understand? Somebody ask me for a match. If I don't participate in what they're doing, I don't have a match. I just don't have a match. You got to find that from someone else. And my advice it would be in favor of what I believe to be the right thing to do. So I believe that it's a narrow road to cross, because you have to be extra careful, because somehow, some way, you're going to be challenged and tested, and the enemy's going to ask questions that will pull your codes out and see what you're really on. But the problem with politics in this land is it doesn't allow you that. It forces you into a corner to where you have to answer specific questions, and the answer of those specific questions would reveal whether or not you are on your principles or not on your principles. So let us go to, not this one here. Let us go to a recent live with the same news anchor that you saw back in the Tavis Smiley days, the lady there. And let us look at what he's saying right now. Okay, and this is his push for running for president of the United States, and so this is like recent. Okay.
Democratic and Republican parties.
We're not talking about hating anybody. We're talking about loving. We're talking about affirming. We're talking about empowering those who have been pushed to the margins. Because neither political party wants to tell the truth about Wall Street, about Ukraine, about the Pentagon, about big tech.
West's announcement surprised many political observers. In 2008, he endorsed Barack Obama, but later became a vocal critic of the Obama-Biden administration.
I wonder why.
In 2016 and 2020, he backed Bernie Sanders in the Democratic primaries. Cornel West is now running as a member of the People's Party, which was founded by a former staffer of Sanders after the 2016 election as an alternative to the two-party system. This will be the first time the party has fielded a candidate for president. According to the New Republic, the People's Party has ballot access in barely a handful of states. Dr. West is one of the nation's most recognized public intellectuals. He's a professor of philosophy and Christian practice at Union Theological Seminary. He formerly taught at Princeton and Harvard universities. He's joining us now from Irvine, California. Cornel West, welcome back to Democracy Now! It's great to have you with us. Can you talk about why you've decided to run for president of the United States?
Listen to his words carefully. Listen.
First, Sister Amy, I want to salute you. You are an exemplar of
Even all that.
longevity, of integrity, and consistency. And, you know, we go back many, many decades. So I just want to always begin on that note. You're putting a smile on Brother George and Sister Dorothy's face, your precious parents. But no, my announcement of running for president of the United States to be head of the empire, to help dismantle it in such a way that poor and working people would be at the very center, at the very core of our vision of what a good society actually is. It has to do, as you can imagine, with these very bleak times, these very desperate times. So it's a kind of act of desperation. You know, I'm 70 years old. I've been at this for 55 years, and I have a calling that flows out of the legacy of Martin Luther King Jr. and Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel and Edward Said and Chief Joseph and Dorothy Day and Grace Lee Boggs and Louisa Marino. All of those are the best of America. And I think we're at such a low point that America needs to be reintroduced to its best. And its best has always been the movements for justice, the struggles for freedom, the solidarity based on a fundamental commitment to the dignity of those Sly Stone calls everyday people. And there's no doubt in my mind that the two-party system now is a major impediment for the empowerment of poor and working people. I'm thoroughly convinced that, of course, the neo-fascist Republican Party has already made it very clear that they're tied to big business and big military, big tech, and so forth. And the milquetoast neoliberal Democratic Party strikes me as being incapable of taking seriously the fundamental needs of poor and working people, not just here, but around the world. The militarism abroad, $7 billion frozen for the brothers and sisters in Afghanistan, and what's been AFRICOM in Africa, and what's been going on in the Middle East. Thank God that you keep track of the precious Palestinian brothers and sisters and all the hell that they're catching. You have it every day, and I thank God that you do. Why? Because Palestinian peoples deserve to have a visibility in terms of their suffering and ways in which they can attempt to get out from under. Same would be true, of course, for our Jewish brothers and sisters in Russia or in a France where their rights are being violated. We're wrestling with organized greed. We're wrestling with institutionalized hatred. We saw that with our precious gay brothers and lesbian sisters and queer siblings in the earlier report. But it's also a matter of routinized indifference. There's an indifference to the plight of the vulnerable. More and more, it's becoming not just a fad and a fashion, it's becoming a normalized way of life. And that is what leads toward wholesale fascism, not just here, but in other parts of the world. And we've seen it, of course, in Hungary. You see it, saw it in Brazil. We can go on in this regard. So for me, it was really a matter of trying to be consistent with what I've been about for the last 55 years.
Cornel.
Okay, so the things I've got to deal with, mainly, and a lot of things have been said there, is that, you know, as a person who's involved in politics, there's this habit, this thing where they throw certain words out at you so that you pay attention to them. Perhaps you look it up or research it, you know, later on, and you know follow it up. Like even if you look at the little heading next to the Democracy Now, you can see like books that are mentioned. You know, after the website, you'll see books that are mentioned. And the thing to consider is you always have to ask why. why is this happening? Why is this happening? Why is this going on? Some of us take things for granted, like, oh, that's just he has to do that, or that's just his what that's just what whatever. Now, here's the thing. I personally, believe that from whatever I've learned about Brother West, that he as a person hasn't changed in character. Because when I'm listening to him talk, I hear the same type of oratory, the same type of communication. I'm not too sure about the people behind him, though, or the people who have either persuaded him or encouraged him to run for president of the United States. Because even in his words, it carries the belief that the person who's holding the office as president is the top person. You understand, or the person that does anything, that calls the shots. And the more you learn about the design and nature of the establishment, the more you learn at how much more the president is merely a mouthpiece of a body of people, organization of people, rather than some individual who's autonomously thinking on their own of what to do and what's going to happen. You understand? The man that you see right next to him is, borderline senile, if not senile. I'm talking about the man that you see in the image next to Brother West. And you can't convince me that he's authorizing anything of his own accord. You understand? Based upon, the type of person this is before you and the things that the way this person behaves, you can't convince me that he is autonomously manifesting some type of presidential authorities without being influenced by others, advisors and interest, people of special interest and whatnot. Now, I don't think that I think that Brother West is way, 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 way by far more intelligent than the person that you see in the other picture. By far, this is a adept scholar in his school of thought, if you will. But about that school of thought, that's where I believe we part ways to some extent, because I've already mentioned to you earlier something about his teacher, or the teacher of his school of thought, meaning W.E.B. Dubois. Okay, he champions that, and I'm not saying it's wrong for him. Each person can develop their own perspective and thought and learn from whom they will, but there's a lot of things out of that we would collide with automatically, because that's what led him to believing that to work within the establishment is going to get us somewhere, effectively as a people, and it's proven that it hasn't. We can make the situation look colorful, but if the people behind the machine, the people operating the machine, are still our adversaries, it doesn't matter how you make the established the look of the established power. It doesn't matter how you make it appear. It's still being puppeted or still being controlled by the man behind the curtain. You understand? So, and I think that even some brothers and people that end up, running for president, these are some of the things they may not readily see until, like, I'm saying this because, like, Donald Trump, he was not a politician prior towards becoming president, but I believe that he's experienced some things as a president that he never was aware of before then. And he experienced, what he can do, what he cannot do, how he could operate, how he could not operate while he was a president, versus what he thought he was getting himself into when he was being compelled to run for president. And you better believe that him even running was not something that was under the radar of the establishment and their homework and what their agenda is. He wasn't something that contradicted their agenda. They wanted somebody like that because, again, this is a battle of hearts and minds to make you believe that a certain thing is functioning in a certain way, when in reality it's doing something else. So when you see this, rich, wealthy Donald Trump in office, then you think, well, that's because the people voted for it. Or that's because this or that happened. A, B, and C happened. And see how they were so carefully counting the votes. See how this happened when they voted. And you start to believe in the system, in the establishment. When in the earlier clip that we saw, that was about the time when Barack Obama was surfacing. You have to ask yourself, the uncanny timing. I mean, put on your thinking cap for a moment and think about all the preceding presidents before Barack Obama, and of course their ethnicity, knowing that none of this was coincidental. You understand? Knowing that that each one was in place and a part of the establishment. You end up even learning that even Barack Obama is interconnected with the establishment, and this is even what they're trying to, like Trump, for example, is trying to dig into and expose, while at the same time he's being exposed. So that there's a snowball fight going on there, but just how much of it is moved by the establishment, how much of it reveals that the establishment is weakening. This is something else to take in mind. How much of it reveals that the establishment is losing some of its grip, and at the same time trying to convince you that it's still just as mighty as it was yesterday, today. But if you look all across where things are being allowed to happen that are actually more destructive of the establishment than constructive, then you start to understand something else is going on. One of the things about winning hearts and minds is like the dating game. You want to win her heart over, and when one thing doesn't work, when the roses don't work, when the game doesn't work, then you start trying to resort to other types of styles and tactics to win her heart. Right? This is what some folks do. Some people resort to simping, as they call it. They start trying to do all this other stuff when they feel like they're not alpha enough to come direct. Like, boom, this is what I think about, blah blah blah. There it is. Let's go. Some people don't have that ability. You understand? They go, get out of here. But my point is, battle of hearts and minds. Okay, so in this particular scenario, what type of whose hearts and minds would they be desperate need to battle over? When you're losing, when you're collapsing, when you're an empire on the crumble, falling, and that's clear for any intellectual eye to see that this empire is on a tremendous snowball fall decline, crashing, and crashing, like with an inevitable disastrous end. If that can't be seen by anybody, I don't know what's wrong with your eyes. But the thing is, and if you look in history, when these type of experiences happen by a nation, they start pulling out all kinds of tactics on you to try to save the day. And the stumbling block, that tripstone has in this land has always been the melanated people. Why? Because we remain the unanswered problem in this land. We remain the problem that you refuse to fulfill what you claimed we now could benefit from. And so even if we are asleep in the land, we still remain a stumbling block or potential stumbling block for them to trip over at some point in time. They know this. They know that if push came to shove, if they became weak in all kinds of levels, even militarily, whatever, government, the ability to control the establishment, the people that they would have most likely to worry about are the melanated people in the land, because we are the people who are continually the subject of oppression on so many levels, whether it be political, physical, genocidal, you name it. When it comes to the story of this country, it has our face at the suffering end of it every time, right? It doesn't matter what they've, even when they've tried to put their face as the subject of suffering, it doesn't weigh as heavy as the suffering of the black man and the black woman in the United States. The women's rights movement was initially for white women's rights, because it was white women who were being handled roughly by their men. You understand? And they bandwagoned on the civil rights movement to gain momentum for their cause. And because of that, that made it seem like it covered everybody involved. But it was never our problem. You understand? Brothers were never in a real position to have that type of behavior towards their women. It doesn't mean that you've had people who did things wrong, but as an empowered people, that wasn't the case for us. We weren't empowered like that to be able to get that off if we wanted to. And I don't think we would have wanted to for our own people. That was their behavior. You understand? That was all the all those elements that you put in there. That was their problem. So what I'm saying here is that we are the stumbling block in the land. We are the thing to worry about. And what makes it so that you don't have to worry about us is if you win our hearts and minds over, if you're able to deceive us effectively, right? And even if it be the elect, that means you've got to find ways to communicate to us to make us believe that you have our interest at heart, that you start talking our punchlines. They know what they look, family. See, I think sometimes we don't think that they know what we're complaining about, that they know that they don't know they know well our suffering. They know they knew our complaints before we started complaining about it, because they're the ones that caused and put us in the position to suffer to where we would have to complain about it in the first place. So of course they know what we're going to complain about. They're the ones causing the problem. So they know that we're going to be complaining about reparations. They know we're going to want self-determination, liberation, and things like that. They know we're going to want that because that's what we've been denied by them. So it only makes sense that, look, this would be how they move towards us. But they want to continue to deny us these things, because to do that would offer us a measure of power that they don't want to relinquish. And so they don't want to let that power go. They don't want to let it go because that would be too much like right, and that would be the end of their reign. Not because we are being violent to them or doing something to them, but because when you've brought yourself into power through tyrannical actions, and then people who are actually legit are put into power, you understand, and they're able to demonstrate that power, and you see, well, here's this orange juice with the proper natural good ingredients, and here's this other stuff, you understand, made from a can. People, when they know what's good for them and desire what's good for them, they're going to want that good juice. You understand? And so especially when they've experienced, that's the key, is that when they experience it. So the moment we would ever experience any type of real self-determination, liberation, anything like that, you understand, would be the game changer. And it would be the end of their rule on planet Earth, not because of anything we did against them per se, but just because of the natural order of things. People like that which is right instinctively versus that which is wrong. There's that spiritual talk again. It's our nature as melanated people all across the globe to desire that which naturally desire that which is in sync with our nature. You understand? That which is agreeable. This is what we do. We have to be tricked. We have to be manipulated to do something else. We have to be our perspective of a thing has to be altered. You understand? To where we're made to see something in an aspect of life that if the veil was removed, we would see that this is wholly unnatural. This is wholly against what's proper and right and exact. But because the veils are there, you're made to believe in an illusion, and then take on to something that is actually corruptive to you, even abominable. You heard him speak of the different movements, the LGBT movements and whatnot in this course of talking, and it's sad that he has to have that in his campaigning talking points, because like I said, he knows, he's full aware that the enemies, his opponents in his run, are would be the minute let's say he said everything else for the poor, for the economy, for jobs, for this, that, and the other, but left that out. Immediately, the next live or news show that he would talk to, they would immediately ask him that question, because they want to put him in a corner to force him to acknowledge something that could be a violation of his principles. I don't believe that, Brother West is down with anything shameful or abominable like that. You understand? But I see that he feels, or at least his advisors feel, that he needs to say certain talking points to cover those bases. And that's what I'm talking about when it comes to sacrificing your principles for the sake of your adversary. Then you become a tool. You become a tool, an instrument for their advantage. Like I'm saying to you, family, what I see going on today is heavy overtime attempts to woo us for something or some reason. Let me remind you, let's go back in time a little, just a short time ago. And if you can remember, let's see here if I can find it. If you can remember, where is it at? Let's see here. Let's just put his name in there. Let's use this one. This brother right here, who was a subject of the talk of the media at the time, Justin Pierce, right? If you can remember Justin Pearson, who had been basically kicked out of the House in Tennessee, and had to go through all kinds of loops and jumps to get back in. And they made a big deal, a big issue out of the matter. And I just I just considered that it was uncanny timing for them not only to kick him out, but then to put him back in. And I looked at all of the antics that were revolving around it, even including, what the brother was doing. And that doesn't mean that this is what you need to understand. What I'm saying to you is that I don't believe that whether it be Justin Pierce or Brother Cornel West are themselves up to any ill will. You understand? This is what you need to understand. There's people who are definitely up to ill will, and there's people who are being manipulated and put and moved into certain ways, and that help to be instrumental to an agenda. You understand? And they may not be aware of it because they're caught up into the politics. They believe in the politics of the establishment. Otherwise, they wouldn't be involved, or they could be just in it for a job. You understand? It pays well, whatever. I don't know. But my point is that understand the effect. Here you boot a black man, fro wearing, preaching and talking like Martin Luther King on the mic and podium. You boot him out. It makes headlines because we're in a time where there's police brutality, black lives are being killed and lost. There's all kinds of feelings of what it means to be black. There's feelings of people hating us because we're black. You can't even be a mermaid in a movie and be black. You understand? Understand the atmosphere. You understand? Understand the atmosphere in the way the establishment could milk from that and use that to their advantage. So when you see that you've got to fight and win a fight to get people back to believing in you again. You understand? These devils, they want you to believe in them again because people are starting to reject them openly, plainly. You understand? So they want voices like this, like your brother Questman, to not be so noisy and loud because that might go against their battle of hearts and minds. Because when you can see that these antics are going on, you're going to be like, well, I see. And then you would respond accordingly. But when you're among the dumb, deaf, and blind who still believe that everything is sweet here and that, everybody, somehow it's you just have to vote. Get out and vote, right? And think that somehow tomorrow you're going to wake up with reparations on your lap with a cup of self-determination and a side of liberation. Just like that. Because of the system. Distraction. That's what happened here. I have a respect for Justin Pearson. I believe that he's educated. I believe that he strived hard in his journey to to become an educated black man. And in a time where I believe that more of us need to, have a respect for scholastic learning and things like that amongst our people. At the same time, to me, I see that he was clearly being used for an agenda of the establishment. And if you can recall that the establishment is one that is it at its heart is built on systemic racism. So the manipulation that has to happen is for what aim? To make sure that you cannot be empowered. If they're going to go down, or if they're confronting an enemy, or if things are falling apart in their own establishment, they have to make sure that you can't inherit any of this. They have to make sure that you do not partake in any power sharing going on. You understand? So you have to be distracted. You have to keep on submitting to them, keep on submitting to their mechanisms. Go out and vote. Right? Go out and vote. So show you examples of it working, and see, all he had to do was just vote and protest and see what happens when you protest. He was exiled, but he protested, let freedom ring. Now he's back in there as a state representative. It works. See, it works. You vote, it works. Nonsense. We've been, more than anything else that we've ever been pushing for, has been reparations. And no matter who has been voted for, has reparations matter. I know, again, this is the bone that I have to pick with the students of W.E.B. Dubois, is that they believe that, well, in time, if we get more involved and put more, not boots on the ground, but more, take up more seats in the House, more black voices on the mic, that somehow we will get it. These are dreams. These are the dreams. But these aren't realities. The reality is that this approach has never been designed to be effective or function for us at all. So the reason why I'm showing you this Justin Pierce and the likes of this is because the enemy knows how we feel about our likeness nowadays as we start to become more aware of ourselves, how we feel about what looks like us. I mean, think about it. Let me see this here. It wasn't too long ago. Let's see, 2018 in January, Black Panthers, the movie. And imagine all of us watching this live right now probably went to see the Black Panther movie. Why? Because it was a black superhero and people felt amped up about seeing a brother, doing stuff. And people were even willing to overlook all of the symbolic disrespect that went out through the movie just to be supportive of not only the character in the movie, but even the actor, because we had a appreciation for the actor himself, Chadwick Boseman, right? But we chose to ignore the subtle messages that were in the movie. And I believe that if you can look on YouTube, and there's brothers who've dug in on that. You understand? There's brothers who've dug in on the different hidden subliminal messages of the Black Panther movie, even the second one. But just look at the timing that the movie came out. Look at the year that came out, 2018, and imagine the things that were going on. You understand? Consider the things that were going on. And like, for example, who was the president in 2018? None else other than Donald Trump, right? People felt some kind of way about that. I'm talking about melanated people, because the portrayal of Trump was as a anti-black personality, which he may very well be. But like I said, I'm not concerned with the politics of that, because it's all of the same body to me, right hand versus left hand, still same body. But in the case of Donald Trump, that was the year that the Black Panther came out. You understand? It's like, someone saying, let me kick your behind over here and give you a cookie over here. Give you a kick, punch you over here, cookie over there. That's what that was symbolic of. Then you end up with this other guy that's in there now, who might not even know that he's in there right now, who decides out of the blue on June 17th of 2021, all of a sudden, you know what? I know what we can do. We can nationalize. The black people will love it if we nationalize Juneteenth. So let's nationalize Juneteenth. And this is coming from a person who said, if you don't vote for him, you mustn't be black. You're not black if you don't vote for this guy. I mean, this is this person here. So he felt some kind of way, like he done did you a favor by establishing Juneteenth, as if anybody asked for it, as a national holiday. Meanwhile, they're collaborating with other countries to battle, like Russia and whatnot. Meanwhile, other things are going on in other places abroad that are going on. But our attention is on, hey, you see what he did? You see, if we protest enough, if we march enough banners in the streets, we get Juneteenth as a national holiday. We must be progressing right now. Where's Al Sharpton at? Why is he? Come on, he must be saying something about this. Nonsense after nonsense upon nonsense multiplied by nonsense. If you are that gullible to not see the gameplay. And if you remember, before that, just so you can understand, when the pot starts to boil, let me remind you that the year before this so-called Juneteenth started to come about, there was some marching going on Stone Mountain. A year before that, some marching was going on Stone Mountain about around May, right? Showing the sentiments, revealing the sentiments of the Black community, because there was a lot of hearts and minds that were being won over by the movement known as the NFAC, who came in the form of a Black armed militia, legally armed militia. That was like, another bold-faced slap to the establishment's face, much like when Malcolm X marched to the hospital and demanded certain rights be certain effects be applied to one of their brothers of the community, and to that that was something hated on by the powers that be that were watching this demonstration of authority. The same is in regard to the Black Panthers as well, of those earlier days. And so think about the year of 2020, 21, or I'm sorry, 2020, when groups like the NFAC, when the militia NFAC came out, led by brother Grandmaster J, aka John F. Johnson. Think about the feelings, the hearts and minds of melanated brothers and sisters. You had all kinds of conscious brothers and sisters, starting to be more open with what they want to talk about. People started talking about Black relationships. You started having YouTube commentators talking about more Black relationships, more things that, you had all kinds of people who, were maybe spiritualists or spiritual adepts or students thereof, talking about things that affect us as a people. People starting to try to connect us with our ancestral origins, be it Hebrew, be it Native Americans, people of children of Kemet, and so on. That started to become, it's been talked about. We've been talking about these things, but it started to become more louder. The voices of unity is what I'm talking about. Like some voices of unity in varying levels were going on during that time period, around that time period. So that would reveal to the enemy what? One, that they're losing control, effective control, and in particular over the battle of hearts and minds, and that puts their position at risk. It makes them vulnerable, because here's the thing: you may think that what we go through in our life, everybody in the world knows, and to some extent they do. But oftentimes there are things that happen, like, for example, many other countries don't know anything about what took place in Philadelphia or what took place in Oklahoma. Many other countries don't know about it. That countries that would if they knew about it, might use that against this establishment. Like if you've noticed, like recently there's an article in the news where the president of Russia has been calling out this government regarding a former president by the name of John F. Kennedy, where in that he's exposing, wait a minute, you guys need to take a look at how he really was killed. Then he went on to talk about Martin Luther King and others. How were they really killed? Who's really involved with how these people lost their lives? Exposing that Martin Luther King was not killed by some random soloist, but a representative of the establishment. Shalom, peace and blessings. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Also, I would add that if you are so caring to a brother, to show your support by donating to the Light Dome Cash App, because that does definitely help matters, better. So what I'm getting at here is, um, this president of another country is doing all this exposure, presenting like, boom, why don't you guys take a look at this and that when you want to talk about quote unquote human rights violations, etc., etc. Okay, if they were to observe what Malcolm X was up to, because that's what Malcolm X was up to. He was actually going abroad, establishing all kinds of bridges being built from Muammar Gaddafi, you name it, from different other African leaders and whatnot, building bridges, connecting alliances, things that are empowering to us. Understand that things that when we are empowered, we now would have the right of self-determination. You can't tell us what to do anymore because we are our own people at that time. See, right now, they can continue to tell us what to do because we have no one to look out for us abroad or anywhere else. And the people that will look out for us here were too busted up in division for that to be effective. Or we turn our backs on them, or we reject them or disbelieve in what they're about. On and on. We've got a number of excuses that we go through. So, and that's, you can kind of see how that played out in the life of Malcolm X. You understand? Especially once he returned back to the States, because it wasn't too long after that to when they finally felt like, look, here's an opportunity before he does anything else froggy. Let's go ahead and get him out the way. Right? Go ahead and get Malcolm X out the way because he's doing too much, like empowering people. He's doing too much. When you are effective, truly effective, you are going to know that that person or personalities are truly effective because it starts to put a dent in the ability to hold on to power by the establishment. And so red flags should be coming up about you in your own life because they're looking at you. They're taking a good look. You understand? Who are you, and how can we go about making sure we deal with you accordingly in a way that either if we kill you, that might make you a martyr, and we don't want to make you a martyr because that doesn't always have a favorable effect. Sometimes when you make a martyr out of somebody, instead of reducing or killing the cause, it increases the cause. It makes it even bigger than it was before. But when you lock them up or when you silence them or when you do something, it doesn't have the same effects as making a martyr out of somebody. That's why to this day, there are those of us who have a great sympathy for Malcolm X, and it's increased because of the martyrdom, because he was killed, and even Martin Luther King. You understand? And as much as Elijah Muhammad can be respected, I would say that he didn't go out the same way, and so when we think about certain leaders, sometimes the first names we mention are the ones that touch our heart the most. When you just say Malcolm X, you should see how some people respond to that. When you just say the name Malcolm X, in some people's heart, that's like saying Jesus. You understand? And maybe rightfully so, if you wanted to really think about it on another level. But yes, indeed, they are working on our behalf for sure. So, what I'm getting at here is the effort by the establishment to woo us. Even just in this past year, little things that you might take for granted. The Little Mermaid being black, the Cleopatra movie depicting a mixed ethnic race Cleopatra. You understand? We saw a melanated lady. And understand the name of this episode is Double-Edged Sword. Understand how it might affect us because we're saying, oh, what's the problem, with a mermaid being cast as a black character? What's the problem with Cleopatra being black when we know that our Kemetic ancestors were in fact black, at least for the majority of time. Yeah, they were invaded and occupied, and other personalities started to take positions of authority, but ancestrally, for the long term aspect of it, the Kemetic people were melanated folks, our ancestors. But you see how people who've held on to lies of their own that have been propagated. So you got to understand, we're not the only people who've been suffering deception. The devil spreads the deception to all that would be subjected to it, if even, a quote again, to deceive the elect, right? If even to deceive the elect. So you've got Arabs who had a problem with Cleopatra being cast as a melanated sister, because in their mind, as far as they can understand, well, the ancient Egyptians must have looked like us, even though nothing, no relics, no imageries, no sculptures, no statues even resemble them, even in the least way. You can't find a single Egyptian carving that looks Arab at all. I'm not just talking about the physical features, but even just the dress code. 14,000 years ago, even the dress code wasn't even close to the ancient Egyptian times. At no point, when you look at any other Arab history, you don't ever see them trying to rock the Kemetic line of clothing line. You understand? But you find all kinds of African tribes rocking that style, in various forms. You understand? Again and again and again. But those who know, they know, and that's a battle for another day. Salute to my fellow Kemetic kin. And the same thing goes with even other aspects of our ethnicity, including, our Hebrew brothers and sisters. You know what I mean? They want to try to whitewash all that and make it into something that it never was. And I talk to people about this all the time when they like to quote our stories for their own agenda. And I say, no, that's not your story. You can't take our story and make it your own story because it's convenient for you. It still is not your story. No one was talking to you. It wasn't a conversation for you. It was a conversation for A and B, not C. It may sound good to you, so you can quote the quotes and cite the citations, but it wasn't your conversation, right? So here, so these are the things. These are what I'm showing you is woo antics, efforts to win your heart and mind. Now things are getting heated up. Things are happening in a way that you might not even be aware of. Things may not be going according to plan. See, as wise, as clever as the serpents may be, the Most High is even wiser. They say man plans, but Allah is the best of planners. The God is the best of planners. Okay? And I'm saying that because there's battles going on overseas. And there may have been a game plan of how this should work out. Because one of the things I know about this particular adversary that I've learned is that they don't get involved in something that they think they can lose. Like if they thought that, busting up in Iraq was something that would end up in a failure, there would have never been an invasion in Iraq. If they thought that Afghanistan would have been something to end in failure, they would have never gone into Afghanistan. So that's one thing you could say, that because that's why they still have yet to go up into North Korea the same way, or even try China in the same way, because these aren't the same type of countries. You understand? They know that there might be some work that they'd have to do, and they don't want to do that kind of work because maybe they're not as of a giant as they're portrayed to be. Maybe they're like the dragon, what's his name? I can't think of the name of the dragon, but who has a hole right in his heart, a weak spot. Maybe they're like that. Or maybe they're like Goliath, who all it takes is one pointed stone to the dome to bring him down. You understand? So, and I'm going to deal with this comment here shortly, because again, if people don't understand a conversation, they would apply it to where it wasn't intended to apply, and that has to be dealt with separately. But for the time being here, I'll hold that thought for that conversation. That'll be dealt with. So we have woo ethics going on. And why is this important to deal with? And I keep hearing this static. I don't know if you guys can hear this static. I hear it though, and I don't like it. Let me see if I can fix that somehow. Maybe that's better. It's a little better. So, yeah, sounds a little better. All right. So this is the thing that we have to be more concerned about. So, like I said, the point I was getting at with the overseas things is that they don't get involved in things that are more than they can bite off and chew. You understand? And they'll when it comes to things that might be bigger than what they're concerned with investing in, they'll use other people to do that. As you can see, is the confrontations that are going on abroad are not direct. They're not person to person, this big nation versus this big nation. Instead, the appearance is this big nation versus this little nation. That's the appearance, even though that little nation is being weaponized by another big nation. But let's go ahead and use this guy, and so that way it doesn't give the image that big nation A is involved. That's how you deal with someone that you may not be entirely afraid of, but you respect to the sense that they might be able to give you what you're asking for, right? For more on that, I would suggest you go and check out Brother Colt Figure TV, who digs on that heavily. But here, imagine that these things are going on. Imagine that these situations are happening, and that stumbling block, that unanswered question, that unanswered problem that you caused, that Pandora's box that you caused, you chose to enslave a people. You chose to keep them enslaved. You chose to tell them that they're free, but continue manifesting authority over them. You chose to do these things believing that there would never be a consequence. That there would never be a consequence. And so said people remain a stumbling block for you, remain something that you always are at risk of tripping over and falling flat on your face as long as we exist. So how do you deal with that? Either you take our lives, you deceive us, you woo us. You understand? And the reason why you would want to woo us is so that our hearts do not become inclined to those people who might be about some real business. Because we are a people. And how is any nation brought down? But by a people who are opposed to that nation's establishment, to the existing nation's establishment. To give you an example, other nations, the Ottoman Empire, the Abbasi Empire. These are examples of nations who existed within established nations and overtook them from within. These are the concerns that they have. And it makes sense that they have these concerns, but I believe it's a little too late. I believe that the problem that you caused, you had and still have a righteous way to deal with it. You still have a righteous move that you can make. But because this is an arrogant enemy, a dangerous enemy, this is a dragon of an enemy. A dragon is not known to submit to any of the servants, children, chosen manifestations of the Most High. It's just not going to happen that way, because that's too much like right. And when you're eternally condemned anyway, you ain't got nothing coming for you anyway. So the only thing you're trying to do is hang on, and if you can't do that, take as many down with you why you go. So back to brother Cornel West running for the president of this establishment. It sounds good because like I said, I believe that the brother himself means well. I believe, unfortunately, that the values that he's inherited are not what would help him in this scenario. The only way that would be able to help him in this scenario is some kind of imaginative thinking. For example, let's say he was to somehow get into office, which is on so many levels already difficult because with the two established power parties, you understand, with the two established power parties, the way they're designed is to either leech off of smaller parties, you understand, if they exist when necessary, like, okay, we'll go ahead and absorb you to our advantage, or to just, block them out altogether by not allowing them a proper platform to promote themselves and push themselves. West is a part of the People's Party. He's now the candidate of the People's Party. And as you saw the lady say, it's like the first example of this. You understand? If you remember back some years ago, there was a lady named Jill Stein, a part of the Green Party. Most probably never even heard of her because she was never allowed an equal platform, you understand, to be able to communicate and promote herself. Our beloved brother, Grandmaster Jay, ran as candidate John Fitzgerald Johnson. And many of us never knew about this. Why? Because the similar situation, they don't allow these brothers and sisters to operate in a way that would effectively allow them to promote themselves and in such a way that they would be able to realistically gain so-called votes in this political system. So at the end of the day, there's these two gatekeepers called the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, two hands, two arms of one body. You understand? And so they have you jousting back and forth. Oh, we don't like what Trump is saying. Let's vote for I can't even think of the guy's name right now. Now he's affecting me. Joe Biden. Let's vote for Joe Biden. Then the minute he starts to become senile and starts doing all the dumb stuff that he's been doing, see, it was Donald Trump that we should have voted for all along. No. Well, I mean, they're all part of the same body. The only difference between Donald Trump and any other president that there's ever been is he acted outside of the code. You understand? I believe that he genuinely acted outside of the code of his Republican Party. And if you remember, when he started, he was kind of a loose cannon before all that. But he literally, and because you had other Republicans who were trying to call him out on that. But he literally absorbed the reins of power and became the Republican Party in effect. And so since they saw that he usurped some measure of power, you see what they're trying to do to him today. They're trying to strip that power from him by any means necessary. You understand? It's all a part of that. The left hand is acting up. Well, we got to figure out some way to deal with that because this was an outsider left hand anyway. So we got to correct that because the Republican Party isn't behaving like they should. That would be the way that they might put it in other words. So it's all the same. So here you have West, who was doing this, and so if by let's say even West knows that he doesn't even have a shot, right? Let's say even he knows that he doesn't have a shot, at least directly. The only way I will see that he have a shot is if the establishment collapsed and the power structure became so weak that it was inevitable, and he just by default is able to get in. Like there'd have to be some major politically rebellious element that would decapitate one of the parties so severely that there's only one answer, and that's, well, we hate this party so much, we hate this party so much, nobody is going to vote for them. Let's go ahead and just vote for the People's Party anyway, because we've had enough of this, we've had enough of that, so finally we're going to use our heads and we're going to vote against the new guy. That's I'm giving you an I have a dream speech right just there. That's a dream. Is it possible? I mean, you know, a mothership landing in the Arizona desert's possible too. You understand? It's possible too. Now, before I forget, I want to deal with this commentary that somebody put, saying, it says here, and I have no desire to make this a religious conversation of a sort, because I'm not one of the, I don't live in a box, but I do stand up for my people and manifest my principles and values in accordingly to what I believe and what I stand on. But the statement is, Allah also said Quran was complete and fully detailed. It was sent to all peoples. Now, these things are said in effect. Okay, it is said into effect. The thing is about peoples. The Arabic word insan is what we're dealing with, or nas. You understand? Anytime you're dealing with certain choice words, you got to think of the audience of who's being talked to, who's being communicated with. Muhammad was an Arab. At that time, he was communicating to Arab people and other people who were living in the area at that time amongst humanity. While it could be said, and it is acknowledged, that the nature of the Quran is of a global nature, meaning it's effective for all involved. And it's like, you know, for example, you can benefit off of 2 + 2 = 4. But if I was teaching a class and I was telling something meant for them, say, class, today I want you to open your book and I'm going to teach you something special to you. And somebody's getting an eardrop, listening in the window to my class, and they go rush to their people and say, you know what I learned today? 2 + 2 is 4. Yes, it's true. You learned truth. But nobody was talking to you. Nobody, this conversation, while it's true for you, nobody was talking to you in the course of the conversation. And so people take that, and this is how a lot of our stories have been hijacked. This is how a lot of our lessons have been hijacked and made someone else, and they justify it by saying, well, this was something meant for everybody. No, it was meant for everybody that was involved in the conversation. Okay. Some things are meant, some things you could say are a general context, because we have a habit of doing that. We have a habit of talking for all of existence. You know, you find the secret of what do you call it? Renewable energy. And you say, well, this is something for everybody. But the first people you give it to are your own. That's kind of what happened in the case of the Quran. It was something that was immediately beneficial to the people on deck, meaning the people in the peninsula of the Arabian Peninsula. But its effectiveness was something that could benefit other people. You understand? I am a benefactor of that. And I imagine the other brother who was who mentioned that in the chat can also claim to be a benefactor of that. But the thing that I keep on trying to mention to you, brothers and sisters who use these things, you can't take from our story or belittle our circumstance. You can't make our circumstance your circumstance unless you're willing to acknowledge and accept accountability for what those who are responsible are accountable for. And I'm saying this because some of the people who give me this conversation tend not to be of the melinated, right? And so in their darndest attempt to try to understand our suffering, they end up not understanding our suffering, and so say things that maybe sound on the surface, even to any other person's ears, but can be destructive or belittling to the overall bigger picture of what we're doing right here. This isn't about just gathering just because we're black, It's gathering because as we are a people under the umbrella of being black, there's things that have been hijacked from us, stolen from us, stripped from us, abused upon us, manipulated upon us, deceived upon us. It's all this that's been going on with us. Restoring who we are is what this battle is about. This isn't something that everybody is suffering with. You understand? Like I've told one person, if I can conversate with you and we're both talking in the same language, one amongst us is able to be proud, the other of us is not. And which is the one that you might consider? The one who's able to speak the language without having to had to resort to some other means, or was not forced into this by another ethnicity to speak a certain language. You understand? Which one would be proud? Which one would be not so proud in this regard? So the fight that we are battling is, not the kind of fight that some people like to use against us. They like to say, well, this is a black thing. This is just it's just black. And you're against, it's all black and you're against this people and you're against that people. We might be, you understand? We might be, if you are a instrument, you understand, opposing what we're striving for in general. If you're an instrument opposing our right to self-determination, our right to liberation, our right to exercise real freedom, you understand, to be a people once again, then guess what? You are among the enemies. If you position yourself to have nothing to do with A or B, you are an enemy. You understand? You are an opponent. If you absolve yourself from any type of accountability whatsoever, or any type of responsibility, if you let's say it's legit that you acknowledge that you take a stance of no accountability. It didn't have nothing to do with me. That wasn't me. That was them. That was my ancestors or whatever. Okay, let's take that. But what about responsibility? Because your very existence right now, you're benefiting off of that which my ancestors have laid the ground foundation for. You're benefiting off of that. You're taking in benefits off of that, whether you directly recognize that or not. You're benefiting from the efforts of my ancestors, and we're not. It's our lives that are being the fatal end of police brutality. When you can stand before an officer and say whatever you want, do whatever you want sometimes, and not fear, not even think that your life is going to be taken, you're benefiting. And so that means either you're going to take accountability and or responsibility. Again, accountability, if we accept that line of thought, is you saying that's not you, that's not your ancestors, you don't think like them, you don't move like them. Okay, fine. Okay, then take on responsibility. That means you see what's happening at our expense, something that would never happen to you. And this is someone in your likeness. And since you are able to be exempt from the bullet, from their wrath, it puts you in a position where you can do something about it. You can do something, make a difference. Responsibility. You now have a responsibility. Listen here, family, and to those who are naive about our existence on planet Earth. We're not here to be independent. We don't exist to be independent. So all you believing that we should somehow be independent as an individual, I'm talking about, you're among the dumb, deaf, and blind. We don't exist to be independent. We, as a melinated people, even Allah says in the Quran, I created you as many tongues, and that's lugha, your tongues, and laun is nation or colors, nations and tribes. So that you can learn, you can gain knowledge from each other. So I said, okay, I can accept that. It doesn't mean you become the other because you gain knowledge. For example, if the majority of white people were not hostile towards us as melanated people. I'm saying the majority as a whole. We could actually live in peace. And we would not be looking to violate anything from them because we would not be fearing of them violating us. We'd be able to live in peace. But it's not so, is it? It's not so. It's like on a regular, on a daily, there is this Russian roulette feeling that you could be next, that it could be your life or your children's life. You understand? Next. And so we're constantly faced with this real reason, this real fear obstacle. And so it's a shame that people who don't understand this level of suffering can miss the point on why we speak so-called pro-Black, pro in favor of Black unity. See, these are the same kind of people that when you think of Black power, they equate it with white power and don't realize that white power doesn't appreciate or doesn't like coexisting with another ethnicity because they feel themselves to be supreme and that that the melanated should be subordinate to them. Black power has nothing to do with any of that at all. Black power is simply the desire of a people to be unified and to be a people and to exercise power over their own, with you being out of our business. You understand? There's a difference. So when we're saying Black power, we're saying we love each other. We want to be with each other. We want to be together. We want to be a nation. We're not saying white power, hang these people, belittle these people, subject these people, rule over these people. We are the cream of the crop. You are unworthy. You're less than. Different philosophy, different mindset, different objective, different agenda. So you can't put us in the same boat. Anyway, let me get back to Brother Cornel West. That was in response to the commentary because I understand not only the quote but the one who presented the quote. So I got an idea of motive. I'm not going to tell you to not vote for West. I like I said, if push came to shove, if I was to vote, let me just say it this way: I wouldn't vote ever against a brother of the caliber of West. You understand? I have a great deal for Brother West. He is positioned in my mind amongst the scholars of our time. When I see him, I see someone like Ivan Van Sertima. I see someone like many of our doctors and adepts. You understand? I see someone of that type of caliber. This brother isn't a joke. And I know other brothers of his generation, you understand, who I've sat and talked with. And these brothers, they are of a time where they only knew what it meant to keep it real. They only knew what it meant to be authentic, and they didn't have Google to get the knowledge that they've got. They had the knowledge because they went out, they traveled, they did the work, they got into the books, they sat around with their elders. These are these type of people. You understand? That's like I said, that's why I could salute him, because I understand why he values W.E.B. Dubois, and for the things that are noble about W.E.B. Dubois. Okay. But like I said, there were so many philosophical things, so many political things that I feel because of that brought down or was injurious to the movement, to the cause of Marcus Garvey. And if those things were removed, that Marcus Garvey would have been able to have a foothold. His movement would have been able to have a foothold in this land, right here in the USA. But W.E.B. Du Bois, I have that bone to pick with him because he became a stumbling block. He became a hindrance to what Garvey was doing, simply because his intellect wouldn't allow him to understand how effective what Garvey was doing could have been. Even he could have benefited from it, even with his perspectives, even with his position, I should say. He could have benefited from it if he paid attention and hung on a little longer and was a little bit more patient. But he wasn't, and because of his impatience, because of his own position, it hindered Marcus Garvey's efforts. So, yeah, I would say to you, don't be an enemy of the person of West. You understand? Don't be an enemy. This is your brother. And that brings another concern, because I believe with the type of caliber that West has, it could be a danger to himself. Because while he's highly intelligent, that's the danger. That's the danger right there. It's him being highly intelligent and the adversaries knowing that this is a person, this isn't a fool that's running for president. John Johnson, you can see, if those of you who know John F. Johnson, Grandmaster Jay, know this brother is no fool. This is no idiot. This is no ignoramus. This is someone that when you listen, when you sit and build and break bread with these, this is why I have a problem with opponents of ones like GMJ that don't really haven't really had a sit down or any type of acquaintance or encounter like that. When you do, you realize that the caliber of ones like these aren't no elementary people, family. West is no, I know these may be new to some folks in this generation. West is he's no elementary brother. Like I said, these are no elementary brothers. You understand? Tavis, that's no joker. These are no elementary brothers. And I'm not just saying this because they're black men. I'm saying this because I recognize the caliber of character these folks come from. I remember the environment that the type of upbringing that these people have come from. Yeah. So that makes me concerned for Brother West, because and this isn't to promote fear of the establishment, because I'm against that. You can't be a revolutionary and be afraid of your opponent. You could be wise and aware and respectful. You understand, and know what you're up against, so to speak. But we're not afraid. We're not afraid of ghosts. But the concern is, because of the caliber of West, that could be used against him. I'm not talking about against his running for a campaign, but I'm talking about against him as far as the individual West is concerned. Because understanding the type of enemies that we have, and when they see someone like West, it's not like seeing Barack Obama. It's not like seeing some of these other people. It's not even like seeing Kamala Harris. When you look at West, you're seeing a black man. It's not even like seeing Justin Pearson. That's a black man too, but there's something youthful about him. There's something other about the approach that Pearson is going about things. You understand? You couldn't convince me that he's ever walked through the streets of Cleveland, Ohio before, for example. If you told me that Brother Cornel West walked through Cleveland, Ohio, or Chicago, or someplace, I believe you. I'm not too sure I believe that Pearson has made the same endeavors. You understand? And that's no disrespect to him. I mean, he's been brought up the way, but I believe that he's lived a more shiny plate, silver fork, scrambled egg, steak, and home fries type of lifestyle. If you understand what I'm saying. Again, there's no hate on him, because, like I said, I like to see when we do things that put us in noble positions. whether regardless if it's political or not. You understand? But in the case of West, what I'm talking about here is a person who's been through some of the ground level experiences. You understand? In life, and knows knows a thing or two about certain things like that in life. Now, whether that type of thing will manifest in his journey, that's yet to be seen. Because like I said, I also understand that he would be aware in his political pursuit that the type of tightrope walking he has to do. You understand? And I feel bad that he has to put himself in the position to speak in a way that puts his principles online. Because I know good and well some of the things he's going to have to say aren't things that he's on. You understand? Or in favor of. Like if you, I could imagine good and well if you were to talk to him on a one-on-one that he would be like, nah, bro, I don't get down like that. You see him with his teeth or whatnot, he'd be like, nah, bro, I don't get down. I can see him now. But I'm just saying, there are people who are going to feel some kind of way when they see a real black man. You understand? I want to show you something here. Let me see if I can show you this. Hold on a second here, because sometimes this computer wants to do stuff. Let me show you something here with where is it at? Is this it right here? And we'll try to wrap this up a little bit. Now, this is to those concerned. Some people might not understand the point of me showing this picture again, but I want you to see the people that are around him and understand, uh, the unspoken message. You understand? Anybody that looks at this knows the image that Justin Pearson wants to portray, or that the image that is wanted to be portrayed by Justin Pearson. It's not just a coincidence to have a brother rocking the fro in a position of a political power, in a political position. They know what message this drives in amongst the people. You understand? Now, in the case of, let's go back here. Whatever I did with it. In the case of Brother West, do I have that page open? I thought I did anyway. Well, let's see here. I must have closed it at some point by mistake. In the case of Brother West, the nature is different of what he has to present of himself. You understand? Because I could foresee, people among the white populace who are going to see him. They may even try to paint him. Look forward to them painting him as a pro-black activist, which is to say, what do you want to call it? I'm trying to think of the word. Oh, I can't think of it right now. Radical. That's the word I was trying to look for. Radical. As a radical. They'll want to paint him as a radical, right? Because I don't know if you guys will be able to see this. I was trying to find a better picture than this. But let's just share it anyway. They're going to want to paint him as a radical. I can do this. There we go. How's that? They're going to want to paint him as a radical because he's a black man. You understand? Through and through, he's a black man. He's not like the case of Obama, where they can connect him to, white parents. They can connect him to black parents, and then you notice how the black father was, they could put him way over in Kenya, but the mom they could put her up in Hawaii or something like that, and make her closer to the situation than the father, put more emphasis there. But in the case of West, you have a black man. You understand? And his way of words is black. You understand? He talks like a black professor. If you ever hear any black professors talk, that stick with the blackness in them, you have West, for example. That is a way of words. When you hear Barack Obama, you can hear some kind of swag and whatnot, but you also hear that suburban talk. You understand? You also hear that you like he you couldn't convince me that he's rolled through Cleveland, Ohio when he was a teenager. You couldn't convince me of that. He was out there in the suburbs. You understand? Drinking tea and golfing with his homeboys. So it's a difference in the case of West. You have more of a black personality is what I'm trying to get you to understand. And elements within the establishment and within so-called patriotic peoples, and how that went with the White House or the state capitol, right? You remember how that went down when they were showing their patriotism that day on on January 6th. They see this and they will see what we see, but in reverse. They will see a radical black activist running for president. And in their minds, a radical black activist must be racist, must be someone that is, for them, contrary to what they would like to see. You understand? They're not going to see him as someone who's a tail tucker or a bootlicker. Now, whether he does that during the course of his campaigning or not, that has yet to be seen. But, the West that I remember seeing, was eloquent and well-spoken to the point. He knew how to leave certain conversations alone. I don't know if you remember the conversation that he had with Candace Owens. Let's see if we can find that. But, she had a way of words with him. I think she was quite out of her league in the matter, because she was talking to a philosopher while she is not necessarily a philosopher, but more of a personality, a social media personality, that's kind of fallen into, a certain political atmosphere or whatnot. Hold on a second here. Let's see here. Can we find it? Is this it? Let's just take a look real quick. If I could hold on, because I wanted to find where. Is this it? I think this is it. So let's go up here. So just look at this conversation between Brother West and Sister Candace Owens.
Consent. And this is what I'm talking about. It's really scary stuff. And what I always try to tell women when I speak to them is I try to remind them that men are not dropped off by the stork. Like, they're our sons. So we're creating a society that our sons can't thrive in, that our fathers can't thrive in, that our brothers can't thrive in. So I always use my platform to speak out against it.
Well, this trick of using the nice verbiage to make the things sound justified, you see this with Antifa, where they say we're anti-fascist. What, you're against us? All right, you're pro-fascist. Or even with Black Lives Matter, you go, well, I don't think cops are racist. I didn't say that. I said Black Lives Matter. Are you against Black Lives Matter? Well, then you're against Black lives. You're saying they don't matter. Even pro-life and pro-choice.
Let me pause just for a minute, because that reminds me of something else about Brother West. And I'm not sure if I'm for or against this, because, like I said, I'm not, one that favors the political establishment anyway. But he's, he has a left-leaning inclination anyway. He's more of left, but he does have some right perspectives. You understand? Meaning in the political spectrum I'm talking about. While Candace Owens, she likes to be seen as championing conservative, right, perspective and views or whatnot. Now, if that's what she actually stands on, who am I to challenge her? I don't know her as an individual. But I do know that, a lot of social media personalities know how to position themselves to flow with, their following or whatnot. You know what I mean? And speak in the lane of the talking points of their following. Is she doing that? I'm not going to say that she is or not. I do believe that she's an intellectual personality of her own. Is she of the caliber that West is? No, I don't think she is, because, like I said, there's a lot of deeper background that West has, that she's never experienced in her life, and some of the things she believes in about the Black experience are some things are missing in that, because she's never experienced some of the things that, like, the likes of Brother West have experienced. So he's able to have those talking points, and she's not. And a lot of times she ends up falling into that same lane as what's his name, Reverend Pearson, where they've got this naivety of systemic racism. Like, they don't believe that it exists. It's an illusion to them, and it's unfortunate. But had she had the experiences similar to what West has experienced, her talk might be different. What she would have to say about systemic racism and things of that nature might be different. So yeah.
Play that game. Yeah, you end up being anti-life and anti-choice, and it's rhetoric that's used to trick you.
Well, part of it is, we live in a culture where these categories and labels tend to reduce each and every one of us to just one particular small aspect of who we are as human beings.
See, you may not realize it, but what Brother West is trying to do right there in that talk is find common ground with Candace. Candace is like being in this like square at the time of this conversation. It's like a square. Like this perspective is the solid perspective. Anything outside of this perspective can't possibly bear any weight. It's got to be this perspective. I'm a conservative. Period. You guys over there have got nothing on me. I've got nothing to say. But West, on the other hand, it's almost like he sees that and is trying to break down the wall. That's why he's talking about titles, because he's trying to break down this wall of indifference that her aura may be presenting. You understand? And like, look, let's get to the essence of this. Let's find common ground. Let's find, common talking points, common interests that we all can put on the table and agree with. That's the kind of conversation he's having right there. So that some what you if we listen to this, just listen to the caliber of an educated black man, and not like like I said, don't compare West with Barack Obama. These are completely, like I said, this is a person who's been through the streets, so to speak, versus someone who if he did, if he did go through the streets to play hoops or something or whatever, it was under heavy surveillance and guidance and protection or whatever, not because he was from around the neighborhood. Not the same thing. That's what people when Obama was president, that was one of the main things that people understood, and why people realized that they weren't going to really get anything that would benefit the black community specifically. I'm specifically talking our talking points. Not that he was a president and this and that, but the talking points, the thing, the right of self-determination, liberation, determination, etc. We weren't even given that attention. But who people want to marry and whether they're male or female, those were priority over the years, the centuries of black suffering and efforts to keep blacks, subordinated in this establishment. You understand? Like I said, I'm curious to see, because when I saw that interview with him, and you guys could take a look at that interview. Look in the video, you see the title, look it up, of him talking about his run for presidency, and I'm trying to hear where his talk punches of black family, I got your back type talk.
So the richness of who we are, and the contradictions that we all are, the incongruities that we all are. You see, all of us are shot through with all kind of incoherencies. That's what it is to be human.
Yeah, see, I just wanted you to see that he's trying to get Candace to see common ground between the two of them. So and the reason why he wants to do that is, as a professor, as a doctor, when you're having a conversation, you want to find common ground so you can have a conversation. And when you have a strong mind like Candace has, meaning she is strong on her perspectives and not willing to observe anything outside of that. A skilled person seeing that wants to find common ground, because you can't talk to somebody that is not willing to hear you out. You can't talk to them. What do you say? What do you say when no matter what you say is going to be rejected before a person's even been able to absorb the content and context of what you're talking about? And I don't believe that she is willing to do that, because she's so what do you want to call it? Very zealous on what she's upon. She's very you could say an extremist conservative. You understand? An extremist conservative. Like, it's either this way or the highway. And that's not reality. That's not how the world turns. Yeah. I agree with you, sister, that this is definitely something that, no matter how you spin this, is not going to ever be in our favor. So what I'm saying to you, family, is that knowing that no matter what the situation is, the system is not going to respond to us favorably. But what about Brother West? What is he up against? If, let's say, things work in his favor and he starts making inroad, what does that mean? What's really going on? Because that would mean that while he might not himself perceive it, it would mean that the adversary is pursuing a path of deception yet again. So we would have to say, okay, we see West starting to get in the position of power. Tomorrow's voting day, he might become president of the United States. Let's just say that, right? To a keen eye, we would have to wonder why. What is the agenda? Now, here's the flip side of this. Cornell could easily manifest another Trump. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is become an outsider and, do things that, because of the way they're done, the ball is now rolling. They have to be applied. They have to be effective. Like, for example, people have talked about this before, an executive order of reparations. You understand? I mean, these things can happen. They can happen. The likelihood of them happening by this establishment is like slim to none. And if it does happen, I would again wonder, what are you up to? What is you establishment? What are you up to? What's behind this? You did this now, so what do you want? What are you trying to do? That's the same thing. If you were to get in the position of presidency, I would look at the establishment. What are you trying to do? What are you up to? Because you didn't just put any black man in the position of president, but you put an actual authentic black man. So you put an actual black man as a president. I'm saying black and black, black in, black out, not just black in appearance. You understand? But black in, black out, blackity black. That's West. What? Why? Why did you do that? Why did you do that? What's in this? What's in it for you? What are you trying to get by propping him up in this way into your system? But see, this thing I want you to understand is that no matter how mighty this beast is, it's not invincible. And that's the thing we need to always remember. And there's some way, that once exposed, and I believe in so many ways there's exposing going on, that a person, if they're keen with intelligence, they can move things in a way that's more favorable for them and for what their real objective or purpose is. I think that West has the caliber of intelligence to move in a higher level of intelligence of a way. We have that opportunity. That's the question, and that's the thing that many people who deal with politics would say no. Not that he's a bad person or a bad candidate, but the likelihood of a third party ascending to presidency, and they say that he only has like 3 or 4 places where there's strong representation where they can, be put on the ballot. It makes that a hard bargain. Makes it a hard bargain. Okay, family. So I'm going to do this before I go. Let's do that. Boom. I'm going to put the link in the chat. You're more than welcome to come in here in a conscious way, respectful way, if you have some views about this matter. But while you're doing that, I just want to share with you something here. I was looking, just a basic Google. Here it talks about W.E.B. Dubois believes that capitalism was a primary cause of racism. Yeah. See, this is what I mean by there are things that are agreeable. There's things that are disagreeable about ones amongst us who rise up in the ranks of intelligence. And he was generally sympathetic to socialist cause throughout his life. He was an ardent peace activist and advocate for nuclear disarmament. Okay, see, this is where heads could be bumped. Now, in the case of Garvey, is quoting to him, we represent peace, harmony, love, human sympathy, human rights, and human justice. And that is why we fight so much. Wheresoever human rights is denied to any group, wheresoever justice is denied to any group, there the UNIA finds a cause. And so that his fight was specifically, directly for the plight of the melinated, the blacks of America. You understand? To be able to have the same privileges, the same functionality as anybody else that's a nation on the planet Earth. Dubois felt that assimilation was the best road to go, to absorb ourselves into the establishment. You understand? And then over the course of time, manipulate ourselves into positions of power, and then influence the directions of the country from there. But that's not how the system is designed. It's not designed for melanated people to be able to do that. It's designed to be able to accept our likeness so that our image can be shown. You understand? So you can say, well, there is black representation, but it's not designed for that representation to be empowered in the system. You understand? Token politicians is what you have, not actual power moving people, but token politicians. So that's quite a big difference. I mean, I can remember an advocate and student of Marcus Garvey, outspoken student of Marcus Garvey, who we know, Umar Johnson. You understand? Who speaks highly about Marcus Garvey, and about the the distinction between those people who would be of the system or supportive of what's established versus the people who would be about being unified with our own, whether it be here or abroad, as they would call Pan-Africanism. So his focus is on it's almost like Marcus Garvey, in the sense that it's based on investing in our own people. You understand? And in the interest of our own people. So the thing that I will give us a heads up on in the matter at the end of the day is to consider this, that if we continue to have a body amongst us that get absorbed into pandering for the twisted interests and behaviors of the establishment, politics here, politics in this establishment would never be in our favor, no matter how much you think they may be. You can vote until you suffocate. You can vote and vote and vote. And the way the infrastructure of the system is designed, it would never be in our favor. Until we can hold true to what our ancestors held true, to moral values, we will continue to be forced to play this political game of maybe they will or maybe they won't do something for the black agenda. We'll continue to play that game because that's all we keep on doing. Well, maybe they'll do something for the black agenda, or maybe they'll do something for the black agenda, and none of them ever do. They will say things that sound like they're going to, but the minute they get put in their positions of power, we're not even a part of the conversation unless to use it for political leverage. And that's still not for us to gain anything. You understand? It's still not for us to gain anything. So, I mean, it's, you know, as far as what I can tell, this here is just another effort to grab our attention at the expense of our own people. And again, not just any of our own people, but people who believe in the system and or believe that somehow they can make inroads through that way. I do believe that that's something that the brother takes on, is that he believes that if somehow he can do these things, because that's what his teacher believed. That's what W.E.B. Du Bois promoted. That if he can get in the ranks the right way, that somehow that will give him leverage to make a difference in, you know, the battle of power sharing and whatnot. But this establishment is not trying to give up any power, let alone give any power to anybody other than their own. I mean, that's just what it is. And in a way, it makes sense, because you're not going to allow me to come up in your own home and start calling the shots, right? You're going to be like, you know, if I say, hey, you know, let me get, you know, let me have this or let me use that, you're going to be like, well, hold on, let's ask my father. Let's see what my father has to say. You're going to point me to whoever the authority person's, you know, mom, where's mom at? You're going to point me to whoever's in charge of your home. Why would I be in a position of authority over your home that you're occupying and are currently in authority over? You're not going to do that. You're not going to give me any power in your home, whether it's legit or not. You're not, even if your power is illegit, you're still not going to pass it around to me. So what do you think these folks are going to do? They're not, why would they? Why would that? How would them empowering us benefit them in the long term? It won't. It won't. Like I said, the minute we are empowered, recognize signs of the times. Because that means that whatever they had, they don't have anymore. The moment you see us manifesting any kind of real authority on whatever level, political, spiritual, you name it, and we're saying what goes, we're calling the shots, truly calling the shots, to understand that something has happened to the establishment where they can never, you know, come back from. You don't see that happening entirely right now. You do see some explosive moments. You do see some moments where we start showing up like we're starting to manifest a sense of self-determination. You do see these little moments, these little pockets of time. But we have yet to fully hold on to them with a strong grip and then embrace them and make proper use of them, which is what we should be doing now. I believe that we are at a crossroad, a point to where game changing can happen if we make the right moves and make the right choices and behave and operate in the right way amongst our people. We are at a nexus or a point where things can become different, where we can truly start seeing signs of end game towards what we've been striving for all along. Dear family, I'm hoping that this was a constructive conversation, as well as something perhaps spiritually insightful. That was the intention, to kind of go in on this in a way to, make us think about the matter a little bit, and whether you dig voting and getting involved in that or not, that's on you. You vote. If you vote for follow your heart. Follow your heart. Me, my intention is to be about my people in general, but also about what I believe to be in the better interests of my people. And if I believe that something doesn't benefit us, and never has shown to benefit us, I'm not going to encourage it. For me, it's not. You're not going to hear me say, "Yeah, go." I just say, "Do you? Do what you do. You're a man, you're a woman. Do what you do." I just encourage you to do your research and fact finding and things like that to understand what you're signing up for. You understand what you're clicking the vote button for, the check for, or whatever. What's happening there. Do your research and don't just look at one side of the story or one side of the coin, but try to get as much of a full, wholesome concept or content about the matter. Then then you can do whatever you do in an informed, intelligent way. That's how we should approach a lot of things. Somebody says something, and somebody says this is the thing to do, or this is the way to follow, or this is how you should believe, or this is what you should think. Say, okay, let's see what it looks like. Let's take a look. Let me look at that. Let me, like when I do some online shopping, sometimes one of the things that I love to do, what I like to do when I look at a product, is I look at the commentary. I want to see. I don't first look at the things. And this might seem strange. I don't first look at the things that people complimented the product about. I want to see what negatives people were saying about the matter. What did people say that had an issue with this product? Because I want to see how many people said that, because then it's possible to be true. Like, well, after about a week, when you try to press the button, it breaks. Or after about a week, the zipper comes off. And you got 30 people saying this with no reason to be, have another motive. Well, maybe they got a point. Let me look at another product because I don't want the zipper to pop off. I need to be, looking sharp if I'm going to the meeting, right? So I look at all these aspects when I'm thinking, because then you will hear things that you might not have been aware of. Like I say to people, I say, what if we're wrong? How would you know if we're wrong? How would you know, if what you believe in is wrong? How would you know if what you stand on is wrong? What if, oh man, God forbid, what if they are supremists? What if the white people really are supreme? How would you know? They're not. Not when you're the original creation of the earth. And I'm not saying anything to toot our own horn, but that's not what's happening here. I believe that there's a saying to want for your brother what you want for yourself, to do unto others as you have them do unto you. I believe that's applicable for all involved. For those that like to steal stories and take our stories and try to make the morals and proverbial content yours, we'll take this one for size. Apply that. See, it's interesting that people will like to take our stories and quote them when it's convenient, but why not apply? Because then it doesn't make any sense for you to quote our stories and apply them to a conversation to try to prove a point. But it's a whole other thing when you're actually applying those virtues, and then you say, well, this is something that's a message for all of humanity. Because then I'm looking at you like, oh, well, shoot, maybe it is. It's obviously affected you because I can see that you've improved with these qualities that you say are universal. We have to these are the things we have to get together. These are the facts that we have to get together, family. So Yes, indeed. So that's what I do. I don't like my first response to somebody who tells me something that I may disagree with or not be willing to accept right away. I don't like to tell them that they're wrong or no. I like to say, well, let's take a look at this. Let me see the material you're looking at. Let me do some reflection myself and look at this from a different angle. And if if what they're presenting to me weighs heavier, I mean, I would be compelled, at some point, perhaps to even be moved by it. But sometimes deception doesn't show itself until a good degree of time has passed by. You think everything was going smooth and everything was what it was as you read it, and the next thing you know, you find out that this isn't what was being said it was. You understand? And that's what deception does. That's why for me, like even dealing with people, I've had to take a lot of time, to see who they really are, to decide whether or not I was going to be supportive or otherwise. If I found them to be who they say they are and it was still in sync with something worthy of support, then I do just that. If I found something wanting, like, wait a minute, you said you were this, you said you were about that, but here you talking like you're an enemy of your own position. Then I have to question. I have questions. So anyway, that's what it is. It's my objective isn't to hate on anyone or those who hate my existence or those who try to move in a way to hinder my existence or ones that manifest look like I's existence for no other reason than the fact that we exist, and they feel intimidated or some kind of way about that. So they gotta take our lives and mistreat us and stuff. Yeah, those are my enemies. Those are people that I have an issue with. But other than that, on the onset, it's salam alaikum that I begin with anybody. You understand that I may encounter. Salam alaikum, peace be with you, like that. I'm just looking here. I appreciate all the commentary in the chat. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and show your support to the Light Dome Cash App. And I think I'm going to go ahead and sign off at this point. I appreciate all those who came in. I have a great deal of respect for the names that I see here on the chat, on the commentary, and I appreciate it. They're family. Keep on doing the right thing and moving in the righteous way and supporting the righteous causes that are out there amongst us. You understand? Shout out to those people who have been showing support to the GMJ's, the Grandmaster J Legal Defense Fund. Shout out to those who've been showing their support to the Otho.org fundraiser and all the other credible and fundraisers that we have going on to support the causes of our people. Shout out and keep on doing it. Keep on being about us. You understand? Keep on being about us. So, with that said, this is your brother Abdul Wadud, aka Quest Man. Soul Journey of Life, Conscious Black Social Media. Assalamu alaikum, rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Shalom. Peace and blessings. Love. Hotep. Have a great rest of your day. Take care.
Welcome to your wake-up call. Soul Journey of Life, Conscious Black Social Media. The light dome.